Welcome to America's Forbidden History, the channel where we uncover forgotten stories, hidden facts, and the mysteries of the past that shaped our world. If you love history, rare finds, and untold truths, you're in the right place. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and join us on this journey through time. When you think of Coca-Cola, you probably imagine America's most wholesome soft drink. But what if I told you that the original recipe of Coke was laced with cocaine, and it was completely legal? This forgotten chapter of Coca-Cola history reveals a time when America's most famous soda wasn't just refreshing, it was addictive. In 1886, a pharmacist in Atlanta named Dr. John Pemberton created Coca-Cola as a medicinal tonic. At the time, coca leaves and cola nuts were both viewed as health boosters, one providing stimulation, the other delivering caffeine. What few realized, however, was that the coca leaves used in the drink contained trace amounts of cocaine. In an era when cocaine was sold over the counter in pharmacies, adding it to a beverage seemed not only acceptable, but cutting edge. The formula caught on quickly, marketed as a cure for headaches, fatigue, and even depression. By the late 1800s, Coca-Cola was being served in soda fountains across America, advertised as the drink that relieves exhaustion. Its popularity exploded, not just as a refreshing beverage, but as a kind of everyday medicine, a pick-me-up in a glass. But as medical understanding grew and the dangers of cocaine became clear, critics turned on Coca-Cola. By 1904, public pressure and changing laws forced the company to quietly remove cocaine from its formula. Still, for nearly 2 decades, millions of Americans had unknowingly been sipping on a drug-infused soda. The revelation shocked the public and forever linked Coca-Cola's early history with controversy, a past the company rarely highlights today. But Coca-Cola wasn't the only drink with a dangerous secret. In fact, the 1920s introduced a so-called energy drink that glowed in the dark, and it wasn't sugar or caffeine doing the trick. In the roaring 1920s, America was obsessed with health tonics and miracle cures. But one so-called energy drink promised vitality by adding something shocking: radioactive radium. Known as Radithor, this glowing elixir wasn't just controversial, it was deadly. Radithor was invented by William J. Bailey, a Harvard dropout who marketed himself as a doctor. In reality, he wasn't a medical professional at all. His product, sold in small glass bottles, contained triple distilled water infused with radium, a newly discovered element that the public associated with progress, power, and health. At the time, radiation was seen as futuristic, and few people understood its dangers. Radithor was marketed as a cure-all, claiming to boost energy, increase libido, and even fight off illness. Wealthy businessmen, athletes, and socialites drank it daily, believing they were harnessing the power of science. The most famous user was industrialist Evan Byers, who consumed over 1,400 bottles. His enthusiastic endorsements helped spread Radithor's popularity across America. But the miracle didn't last. Byers eventually developed radiation poisoning so severe that his jaw literally disintegrated. Newspapers sensationalized his gruesome decline, with one headline reading, "The radium water worked fine until his jaw came off." His death in 1932 marked the end of Radithor and exposed the horrifying truth about radioactive health drinks. Today, his remains are still radioactive, buried in a lead-lined coffin. But if Radithor was America's deadliest drink, the next one became its wildest party fuel, a neon-colored concoction from the 2000s that left regulators scrambling. In the late 2000s, a brightly colored can swept across college campuses and parties in America. Its name was Four Loko, and it wasn't just another drink. It was an alcohol-fueled energy bomb that became so infamous it was nicknamed the Blackout in a can. Four Loko first appeared in 2005, created by 3 college friends who wanted to combine 2 things young adults loved most: alcohol and energy drinks. Each 23.5 ounce can pack as much alcohol as 4 to 5 beers and the caffeine equivalent of several cups of coffee. At a time when flavored malt beverages were already gaining popularity, Four Loko's neon packaging and sweet taste made it stand out. The drink became an instant sensation on college campuses. Cheap, powerful, and easy to find, it fueled an entire wave of party culture. Students boasted about finishing a single can, while parents, schools, and health officials grew increasingly alarmed. Social media and news outlets amplified the craze, making Four Loko the most talked about and feared drink in America. But controversy soon caught up. Hospitals reported dangerous cases of alcohol poisoning linked to Four Loko, often combined with the disorienting effects of caffeine that masked drunkenness. Several states banned the drink, and by 2010, the FDA forced the company to remove caffeine from the formula. While Four Loko still exists today, it's a shadow of its former self, forever remembered as the chaotic party fuel of a generation. Yet America's love affair with controversial drinks didn't start in the 2000s. Long before Four Loko, another miracle tonic promised both elegance and energy, and it was even endorsed by popes and presidents. Asterisk before Coca-Cola became America's soda, another drink was winning hearts across Europe and the United States. It was called Vin Mariani, a French coca wine so popular it was endorsed by celebrities, doctors, and even the Pope. But behind its glamorous reputation was a controversial ingredient, cocaine, asterisk. In 1863, French chemist Angelo Mariani created Vin Mariani by infusing Bordeaux wine with coca leaves imported from South America. The mixture allowed the alcohol to extract the active compounds, including cocaine, which at the time was praised as a medical wonder. Mariani marketed his tonic as a cure for fatigue, anemia, and even melancholy of the soul. Vin Mariani wasn't just another tonic, it was a global sensation. Famous figures including Thomas Edison, Queen Victoria, and multiple popes openly endorsed it. Pope Leo XIII even awarded Mariani a Vatican gold medal for his contribution to public health and appeared in advertisements holding a bottle of the coca wine. The drink was seen as elegant, sophisticated, and modern, a glamorous way to stay energized in a rapidly changing world. But as the dangers of cocaine became better understood, public opinion shifted. By the early 1900s, governments began cracking down on coca-based products, and Vin Mariani faded into history. What was once celebrated as a miracle beverage was later remembered as a symbol of how easily society embraced dangerous fads in the name of progress. And in a strange twist, Coca-Cola's original recipe was directly inspired by Vin Mariani, ensuring its controversial legacy lived on in America's most iconic soft drink. But not every controversial drink came from high society. In the 1980s, a bright can of soda promised nothing more than raw energy, and quickly became the nightmare of parents everywhere. Asterisk long before Monster or Red Bull, there was a soda that proudly embraced America's craving for caffeine. Its slogan was simple: all the sugar and twice the caffeine. This was Jolt Cola, the 1980s drink that terrified parents and thrilled teenagers. Asterisk. Jolt Cola hit shelves in 1985, created by entrepreneur C.J. Rapp. At the time, soda companies were increasingly promoting healthier options, less sugar, fewer calories, and even diet versions. Rapp saw an opportunity to go in the opposite direction. His cola wasn't pretending to be healthy. Instead, it was marketed as the ultimate fuel for students, gamers, and night shift workers who needed to stay awake. With nearly double the caffeine of a standard cola, Jolt quickly became a cult favorite. College students used it to pull all-nighters, programmers swore by it during marathon coding sessions, and teenagers loved the rebellious edge of drinking something their parents disapproved of. The bright red and blue cans became a symbol of 1980s overstimulation, a sugary badge of honor for anyone chasing energy. But not everyone was laughing. Health experts warned of caffeine overdoses, jittery side effects, and sugar crashes. Schools even banned Jolt Cola from vending machines, claiming it encouraged hyperactivity. Though it survived into the 2000s, its reputation as a dangerous soda eventually caught up, and Jolt disappeared from most markets. Still, for an entire generation, it was the original energy drink, the one that pushed boundaries long before Red Bull gave us wings. But while Jolt Cola represented America's hunger for speed and energy, another drink from the 1800s became just as famous for the opposite reason: its slow, bitter taste that divided the nation. Asterisk before Coca-Cola, before Pepsi, there was Moxie. Launched in 1876, it was America's very first mass-produced soft drink. A bitter tonic that built a loyal following, confused newcomers, and divided the country with every sip. Moxie began as a patent medicine created by Dr. Augustine Thompson in Lowell, Massachusetts. Originally called Moxie Nerve Food, it was marketed as a cure for paralysis, nervous disorders, and digestive problems. The key ingredient was gentian root, a bitter herb that gave the drink its sharp, unmistakable taste. By the late 1800s, Thompson rebranded it as a soft drink, making it one of the first sodas ever bottled and sold nationwide. In the decades that followed, Moxie became a cultural phenomenon, especially in New England. Its name even entered the American vocabulary. Having Moxie came to mean courage, energy, and determination. For many, it was more than just a drink. It was a symbol of Yankee toughness and tradition. It even outsold Coca-Cola in parts of the Northeast well into the early 20th century. But for all its loyal fans, just as many people hated it. Newcomers often described Moxie's flavor as medicinal or downright unpleasant. Over time, as sweeter sodas like Coke and Pepsi dominated the market, Moxie's sales declined. Today, it survives as a regional curiosity, loved fiercely in Maine, where it's even celebrated with an annual Moxie Festival, but nearly forgotten elsewhere. A drink that once defined America's soda industry has become a nostalgic reminder of how tastes change and how a single sip can divide a nation. But while Moxie's controversy came from its bitter taste, another drink's reputation came from something far more dangerous. A green spirit once blamed for madness and banned in America for nearly a century. For over a century, one drink was whispered about in America with both fascination and fear. Known as the Green Fairy, absinthe was the emerald-colored spirit blamed for madness, hallucinations, and even murder. Its legend became so powerful, the U.S. banned it for nearly 100 years. Absinthe originated in Switzerland in the late 1700s, but became wildly popular in France during the 19th century. Made from wormwood, anise, and fennel, it was a high-proof spirit with a distinctive green hue. Artists and writers like Ernest Hemingway, Vincent van Gogh, and Oscar Wilde all sang its praises, claiming it fueled creativity and inspiration. By the late 1800s, absinthe had spread to America, where it became a drink associated with sophistication, rebellion, and bohemian nightlife. Absinthe was more than just a drink, it was a ritual. The iconic preparation involved pouring ice-cold water over a sugar cube resting on a slotted spoon, watching the emerald liquor turn a cloudy, milky white. It became a symbol of decadence in cafes and saloons, a drink of choice for intellectuals, rebels, and artists who wanted to stand apart from mainstream society. But absinthe's reputation took a dark turn. Critics claimed wormwood caused hallucinations, insanity, and violent behavior. When a Swiss farmer, reportedly under the influence of absinthe, murdered his family in 1905, public outcry exploded. By 1912, the United States officially banned absinthe, lumping it together with dangerous narcotics. In reality, the hysteria was exaggerated. Absinthe wasn't hallucinogenic, but the moral panic was enough to exile it for decades. It wasn't until 2007 that absinthe returned to the U.S., rebranded as a misunderstood spirit rather than a mind-bending poison. But while absinthe was driven underground by fear, another controversial drink thrived during America's own era of prohibition, one that flowed legally, but only with a doctor's note. When America banned alcohol during Prohibition, you might think the nation went completely dry. But there was one surprising loophole. Whiskey was still legal, if your doctor prescribed it. With a simple slip of paper, Americans could get a bottle of liquor straight from the pharmacy. The 18th Amendment, passed in 1920, outlawed the production and sale of alcoholic beverages across the United States. But lawmakers made one curious exception. Alcohol could be prescribed for medicinal purposes. Pharmacies and doctors quickly took advantage. Patients suffering from everything from anxiety to indigestion could walk away with a bottle of whiskey, legally dispensed like medicine. This loophole turned pharmacies into some of the busiest spots in America. Chains like Walgreens skyrocketed in growth, expanding from just 20 stores in 1920 to over 500 by the end of Prohibition. For many families, medicinal whiskey wasn't about treating illness. It was about keeping a taste of normal life alive during an era of restrictions. Doctors wrote millions of prescriptions each year, and distilleries partnered with pharmaceutical companies to keep the supply flowing. The truth was that medicinal whiskey was less about health and more about survival, for both drinkers and businesses. Everyone knew the prescriptions were often just a cover for ordinary drinking, but it gave people a way to rebel without breaking the law. When Prohibition ended in 1933, the loophole closed, but the story remained a reminder of how America's desire for alcohol never truly disappeared, even when it was banned by the Constitution. And while whiskey prescriptions were a clever workaround, the 1990s brought something entirely different. A futuristic-looking soda filled with floating balls that seemed more like a science experiment than a drink. Asterisk, the 1990s gave us plenty of strange inventions, but few were as bizarre or as unforgettable as Orbit's. This futuristic soft drink looked like a lava lamp in a bottle, filled with floating edible balls that made people wonder, was it a soda or a science experiment? Asterisk. Launched in 1997 by the Clearly Canadian Beverage Company, Orbit's was marketed as a texturally enhanced alternative beverage. The bottles were clear, and inside was a brightly colored liquid dotted with tiny, gelatin-like spheres suspended in a thick syrup. The drink didn't need shaking. The balls simply hovered in place, thanks to a carefully engineered formula. It came in quirky flavors like pineapple banana cherry coconut and raspberry citrus strawberry. Orbit stood out instantly on store shelves. Kids were fascinated by the floating balls, and its unusual appearance made it a perfect conversation piece. Advertisements leaned into its futuristic theme, calling it the drink with balls, and promoting it as part of a bold, experimental lifestyle. For a brief moment, Orbit's was seen as a glimpse of the future of soft drinks, something entirely new that no other brand dared to attempt. But the hype didn't last. Many people found the texture strange, even off-putting. The gelatin balls weren't exactly tasty, and the syrupy liquid felt more like medicine than soda. Within just 2 years, Orbit's disappeared from stores, becoming one of the decade's most memorable product flops. Yet for those who grew up in the 90s, spotting an Orbit's bottle today sparks instant nostalgia, an oddball reminder of a time when companies weren't afraid to take risks, even if it meant creating a drink nobody quite understood. And while Orbit's was a quirky experiment of the 90s, the next drink on our list was a cultural icon for nearly 6 decades, a pink can that defined diet culture in America before fading into history. Asterisk, long before Diet Coke, there was Tab, the first Diet Cola from Coca-Cola. Launched in 1963, this pink can pioneer became a cultural icon, representing both America's obsession with weight loss and the rise of diet culture. But its story is one of both success and controversy. Asterisk. Tab was introduced during the early 1960s, when Americans were becoming increasingly concerned about calories and body image. Coca-Cola designed Tab as a no-sugar alternative for women who wanted to keep tabs on their weight, hence the name. It was sweetened with saccharin, a sugar substitute that allowed drinkers to enjoy a cola flavor without the calories of traditional soda. Tab quickly became more than a drink. It became a symbol. With its distinctive pink can and sleek marketing, it was especially popular among women, often featured in fashion magazines and lifestyle ads. In the 1970s and 80s, Tab was a household name, competing head-to-head with Diet Pepsi and carving out its own loyal fan base. For many Americans, Tab wasn't just a soda, it was part of their daily identity. But controversy followed. Studies in the 1970s linked saccharin to cancer in lab rats, leading the FDA to issue warning labels on Tab for years. Though later research downplayed the risk, the stigma stuck. And when Diet Coke launched in 1982, Tab's dominance began to fade. By the 2000s, it was a cult favorite rather than a mainstream brand. In 2020, Coca-Cola officially discontinued Tab, ending nearly 60 years of history. For its fans, it wasn't just losing a soda, it was losing a piece of the past. From cocaine-laced tonics to radioactive water, from futuristic lava lamp sodas to diet icons, America's most controversial drinks tell us more than just what we once sipped. They reveal what we once believed in. Asterisk, as we've seen, America's most controversial drinks weren't just beverages. They were reflections of their time, mirrors of our hopes, our fears, and our endless curiosity for the next big thing. From the nerve tonics of the 1800s to the radioactive miracle cures of the 1920s, from rebellious energy colas to futuristic floating ball sodas, each drink carried more than just flavor. They carried stories of science, marketing, culture, and the risks we were willing to take in pursuit of progress. Asterisk, some of these drinks vanished as fast as they appeared, while others shaped entire generations before quietly disappearing from store shelves. But all of them remind us of a simple truth. History isn't just about wars, politics, or great inventions. Sometimes, it's about the strange things we chose to put into a glass and the memories they left behind. Asterisk, if you enjoyed this journey through America's lost history of controversial drinks, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Every week, we uncover the forgotten, the bizarre, and the unbelievable stories that shaped the America we remember. Until next time, raise a glass, not of Radithor or Four Loko, but something a little safer. And remember, history is always closer than it seems. Thanks for watching America's Forbidden History, uncovering the stories they tried to erase. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a hidden chapter of history. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep history alive.